Welcome back, everyone. My name is Michael LeBlanc, Director and Senior Portfolio Manager at Canaccord Genuity Wealth Management. And thank you for joining me this week for Mike on Money. Today is International Women's Day, so we're going to be talking about women and investing. It's an appropriate time to talk about it. There's a lot of concerns and things that are important that women make sure you have in your financial plans. Before we get into that, as always, this episode is for information purposes. If you want to reach out to us at mikeonmoney.com. We're happy to go through it with you in person. Make sure you get tailor-made advice. Always seek the advice of a professional. Do your own due diligence before applying any strategies to your financial plan. So with that, let's dive into this week's topic, women in investing. It's important that women are very involved in the financial plan because they have different needs that have to be addressed throughout the lifetime of the financial plan. And this all stems from women living longer than men. People retiring today, generally, the life expectancy at the time of their birth was 65 or 64 for men and 66 for women. Today, obviously, that's a lot longer. I think we're up to 78 for men and mid to high 80s for women. So obviously, a retirement plan has to account for that longer period of time that income is going to be needed, that cash flow is going to be needed. And because women in general live longer, they need to have the money last longer. And on top of that, being the gender that lives longer throughout the financial plan, whether you're very active early on or you're the primary planner or the primary decision maker in the financial plan throughout the life of the plan, you're almost guaranteed to at some point be the sole decision maker in the financial plan, because the number of women that are widows outnumber the men drastically. So you're going to be left with being the sole decision maker on this financial plan. So it's very important that you are involved early on and stay involved. On top of that, financial planning software, the literature that's been written around it, the education, a lot of it has always been geared towards kind of the couple. And a lot of it geared towards the male's life expectancy. Even the rule of thumb that we always hear, save 10% of your income or pay yourself 10% first. And in fact, a lot of cases, when we calculate it out for women's life expectancy, it's almost 15% you should be saving as a rule of thumb. Again, it all depends on what age you start at, how much, your income and what your retirement needs are. But the rule of thumb changes because of that longer life expectancy. And when we say longer life expectancy, the other thing to keep in mind is life expectancy is different than health expectancy, because we are living longer as a society, but there is more living more with health conditions as we age. And if you've seen parents, or even if you watch the news, you see that there's people living longer. We have more elderly that are in the care homes because they need extra assistance. They're not in full health. Maybe the capacities, or maybe it's physical, but they need help. And that goes to another myth out there, is that men and women have different health risk as they age. In fact, science is now learning, you'd think they would have known this before, that we both have the same different risks, whether it be cardiovascular or arthritis or dementia. We pretty much all have the same. It does affect us at different times, but that's more personal, affects you more personally based on family history, lifestyle, and many different factors. But where it affects women a lot more is because you're living longer. Because you're living longer, that means there's a higher chance you're going to run into one of those through your lifetime. So it's so important to make sure you build in that risk into your plan. So that makes sure that there's something there to take care of you. Now that might mean build in the finances around that you'll be able to be cared for if you should need that extra care. There are different insurances like critical illness and long-term care insurances that you can look into if that makes sense in your particular situation. But it needs to be accounted for. And the other thing that we find in a lot of plans is that the financial plan, men and women invest differently. How they look at investments, how they perceive risk, the way they look at the investment strategies are very, very different. Now remember, you're going to be inheriting this plan at some point, statistically. So your wishes need to be built in there. Doesn't mean you have to have two separate plans. It can still be a family plan. You can still plan out your lifetimes together, but you just have to make sure that your wishes or your needs are encompassed in there. Otherwise, you may at someday inherit a plan that's been going on for 20, 30 years that doesn't address your needs or your concerns or your wants. So it's really important that you're involved early on and stay up to date. I mean, some people like to be involved heavily throughout the planning process. Other ones not. If you're one of the people that aren't that interested in being involved throughout the plan, I encourage you to be involved enough to know that your needs are being addressed and your concerns are being addressed, and just stay on top of that. Right? Just do the annual reviews on that. And maybe you're the primary person that's running it, and you're taking care. Make sure that those things are built in there as well. As I mentioned, a lot of the education and a lot of the software and literature don't always account for these things. So that's really important. The other aspect, of course, is estate plan. Anyone who follows me on here, whether you listen to the podcast or you're watching our videos, you know that financial plans and estate plans are a key recommendation of ours. You should have a very detailed plan along the way. You should stay on top of it. You should review it minimum once a year to make sure to account for any changes along the way. But the estate plan, again, for women is super important, because you're very likely, again, to be the one who's going to have to probate or deal with the estate when you lose your partner. But then also you're going to be the one responsible for getting it ready for the next generation. So having an estate plan ahead of time to know that it's going to be very smooth, no complications when you take it over. And then also have it structured so that it will be a really simple transition to your estate plan that will then go on to the next generation or beneficiaries, however you wish to pass it on. But for planning for that ahead of time can save you a lot of grief. It can save you a lot of money and a lot of taxes along the way. So being involved in making sure you have that estate plan in place, I highly recommend you deal with that early stages. The other thing the statistics say is women tend to be the caregivers for their elderly parents, which means you might have to deal with an estate for your parents or the older generation in your family. Even if there's other siblings, it seems to fall on women as the caregiver of the family. And if that's the case, making sure that their estate plan is properly in order for a smooth transition, an efficient transition, and not lay a lot of responsibility and complications on you right in the middle of course, not a time of grief, not when you want to take on more stress and more complication in your life. So, another aspect of estate planning that, a lot of people overlook, so my parents got to have it taken care of. And a lot of cases, not that they don't mean to have it taken care of, but they might not have it taken care of. So it's really important, even if it's just to understand how they've taken care of it, so that you know exactly what to expect and what they want to happen with their estate, and make sure that happens, as mentioned, in an efficient, coordinated manner. So, all these different things lead to a lot of challenges for women as they prepare for their investments, as they prepare for their financial goals throughout their lives. Obviously, we're not even touching into, there's so many different topics we can dive into here that is more individual based, everything from, the inequality in work and having to adjust for that in your financial plan, in the pay, and hopefully that's changing. And obviously there's a lot of movement to make that happen, but still it obviously exists out there, and take that into account in your financial plan. and care for yourself through your entire investment lifetime. So with that, I'm going to call it on this topic. I hope everyone had a great International Women's Day. I hope you were able to be recognized, or if recognize someone, because there's so much out there that often gets overlooked. But don't overlook your financial health. Don't overlook your financial plan or your voice in that plan. So with that, as always, thank you. Do visit us at mikeonmoney.com with any of your comments, feedback, and helpful topic ideas. We love hearing from you, and I look forward to talking to you again next week. Thank you very much.